Hi, hello everyone. So last time we left off with our enemies, and this time we're going to do a collision between the player and these asteroids as enemies. And then we're also going to add explosion, which is here. I'm going to link asset in the description of the video, and it's also going to be included with the code. So first of all, so this is really similar to WebGL video. It's just that I'm going to use different collision method. And so we can probably start with the collisions. I'm going to explain that I'm going to use circle to circle collision. So how is it going to work? Well, basically we have our player here, and then we're going to have some circle that's going to represent our player. So let's say player has width, height. We have to use either is circle going to be corresponding to height or to width, right? So that's decision that we have to make. But let's say we have our circle, we have the other one, so they're not intersecting, so we don't have any intersection, so therefore there is no collision. They're intersecting, and now we have collision. And how do we decide when they're intersecting or not? Well, basically we have our distance, which is going from the center point to center point, and then all of those two have some radius. So radius is half a circle, right? Radius here, and then we can use basically formula, which will be something like if our distance d is less than sum of two radiuses. So basically we have our distance d is less than radius 1, let's say, plus radius 2. This is r. Apparently this is r as well. Anyway, let's do it quickly in code, so you're probably going to understand it. So let's create our circle collider here, and I'm just going to expand this a bit. No, I'm not. All right, circle collider, export class circle collider, and let me just close. All right, so we're going to need this x, y, and then we're going to need to do collision. Public, not the constructor, intersects. So we can have other here, and then we can find formula for distance. So this is squared formula. I'm going to use the correct one. It's a bit slower, but it's a bit clearer as well. So this x, we need to find delta x, delta y. So our distance is const distance is made at square root. So y square root, well, if you remember, or maybe from the high school or even elementary, I guess. So distance, sorry about this, sometimes with typing. So basically distance, if we have a point here, right, then we want to find this distance. Well, it can be found as delta x, so this is delta x, and then we can also find delta y here, right? Delta y, then we have this distance, and then we just to find it, this is Pythagorean theorem, to find the distance between two points, we use square root of delta x squared plus delta y squared, right? So we're doing that exactly here. So square root of delta x squared and delta y squared. And then if our distance, let's say our distance is less than sum of two radiuses, we know that we're colliding. So that's all our code for circle collider, and I'm going to actually need to have some small method update. These suggestions, just leave me alone sometimes. Let's say our draw rect, of type rect. So how are we going to decide? Yeah, we're going to find the radius, but let's say let radius equals width, rect width. What if our height is less? Then I'm going to use height. So either we use width, or if by any chance height is less than width, we're going to use the smaller value for our radius. So All right, that's it. So we now need to implement these colliders. So let's start with that. We're going to edit our player. So our player is now going to have public read-only collider. Not rect. It's actually going to be circle collider. And then we need to update it somewhere. Let's say here, it's probably fine. Actually, this is for positions, probably here. And then we need the same on enemy. We just need to say here, we're going to have collider. And then in our implementation of the enemy, we actually implemented collider. Public read-only collider. Just update it here. Oh wow, what's this now? This collider. Let's update it. And then in our enemy manager, we need to check for those collisions. So we can say that here, enemy player collision. Okay, we're going to need our player here. Private read-only player. Let's add that. And we need to say obviously this player. All right, I don't need this. So I'm not going to destroy the player. I'm going to leave that to you. I just want to have some basic gameplays. But if you wanna improve the gameplay, please feel to do so. Actually, we're just going to say create explosion here to go. So if I did everything correctly, and I didn't, because I still need to actually paste the player to our enemy manager. And then I think I did everything correctly. No, I have not, because I didn't save some file here. File, save all. So now it should refresh. Let's see. Okay, it's not working. Why is it not working? Enemy manager, we pause the player. Did I miss something? Let's see. Let's see our debugger. Zero. Aha! I haven't assigned position. All right. Okay. Easy to fix. So our circle collider. But I did paste the position draw rect width. Collider update. We'll figure it out. Not that hard. Player collider is updated. Enemy collider is updated. Distance 211. Oh wow. Okay, I now understand. All right. This radius is equal to radius, obviously. All right. Sorry about that. It's bugs are typical. All right, it works now. So you can see our enemies are going well, they basically being set to not active. So now we need to do explosions. And so how our explosion is going to work? Well, basically, if you look at this texture that we have, so we're going to have something like this. So we just need to implement some code that's going to take a look at this draw rect, then this draw rect, then this one, right? And our explosion, we just start playing it. After some time, let's say maybe fraction of a second, we move to the next image, then to next, then to next. And then when we're at the last one, when we need to move here, we're actually not moving to the right, we're moving here, right? So here, and then same, right? So that's how our explosion is going to work. So let's implement that. So we're going to need some class, which is going to be simply called explosion. And actually we need to load that explosion first. So here, let's say it's just public static explosion texture, so like texture, and then we can pass it here. So it's not actually here. Let me just see the name. I think it's correct. Assets explosion, otherwise it wouldn't work. So now it's loaded. So we can start creating that explosion. Let's do just that. Oh, come on. Aha, I already created it. Okay, export class explosion. So what do we need here? Let's me check. So basically we're going to need some constant time, which is constant time to, all right, constant time to next frame, which I use something like this. All right, so we're going to need to know if our explosion is playing. We're going to have private time to next frame. We're going to have our source rect from our explosion, draw rect, private. So we need to know what is our current column, and then we need to do same for row. So I'm going to hardcode this, but this is largely going to depend on your texture. So I'm just going to assume that you're always going to have 4x4 texture. If you don't, you need to make these values. Well, basically, you probably need to pass them as parameter. So we're going to have our constructor. And then, actually, I'm not going to do this. I'm actually going to do it a bit differently. So this source rect, and our explosion is actually 128, I think. Yeah, it's 128 by 128, so size of single sprite is 32. Right, and draw rect, it's not important. Draw rect is always going to be set, so you can just set this to whatever value. I'm just going to leave it as this. So we're going to have method for playing. So we're going to say public play draw rect, and we're going to assign our explosion to be the size of our S-trade enemy, right? If it's bigger, it's going to be bigger. If it's smaller, it's going to be smaller. So that's why I have draw rect here. So I'm going to say draw rect is draw rect copy. So we're just going to copy the values. And then let's see, we have our playing, which is true. We need to reset the time, that's all right. And then current row and current column also need to be reset. So because we're playing from the beginning, then we have our update. All right, if we're playing, we're going to add delta time to our time to next frame. Then if it's bigger than time to next frame, then we need to update our explosion. So we're going to, so if you take a look at our explosion here, we're increasing the column. So that means we're going to the right. So basically we're going let's, so we have our sprite, so we're moving to the next one through our columns, right? That's what we did in our explosion. If the current column is greater than columns, we increase. Yes, exactly. So we're going to the columns. If we are at the end, so basically if we reached the end here, we're actually moving here, right? We're increasing the row. So row 0, then we have row 1. So we're increasing the row until we reach the end as well. And then our explosion is basically complete. So let's see here. If this current column is greater, we increase the row. And if we're at the end, we're not playing anymore, but we can also reset the row here. So that's one is missing. So just that we're at the beginning. It's not super important, but we can leave it here. And then in our draw, I'm actually going to leave this for draw. So we're actually going to assign our source rect from these values, and then sprite render. So we're going to have to use content here, but it's going to be explosion texture, second parameter, third parameter. That's quite all right. So we just need to set correctly this source rectangle based on our current column and current column row. Is this correct? Yes, it is. All right. So essentially, this is just saying, if you take a look at explosion, right? Our current column, current row, it is saying where we are here. So let's say that we're somewhere over here, right? So we need to assign correctly X and Y here for this to actually draw this basically subtexture, right? Okay. So next we're going to create our explosion manager. And it's going to be really similar to our enemy manager or explosion manager. So here, let's see, we're going to have private. We can just say pool of explosions. So let's see. Then we're going to have create. I'm not going to use explosion. And then we're actually going to paste direct here. So we need to find some that is not playing currently. And then we're going, if we don't find one, we're going to create a new one. If not found, create a new one. That's quite all right. And then we're just going to say explosion play. We had our method for playing. We're going to play that explosion. Then in our update, if explosion is playing, we can update. And then similarly here, we're going to need to resolve this. If it's playing, then we can draw. All right, that's it for the explosion manager. So the idea is just so that we can reuse explosion. We have some kind of pool, and if pool has one that's not playing, we can reuse that instead of creating new explosion every time. And then we probably just need to implement that. So we're going to go to our enemy manager. Now we're going to paste that private read-only explosion manager. And here I mentioned somewhere we can just create one. And then in our main, We just need to paste that explosion manager now. Const. Let's see. We have created one, paste it here. And we need to update it. And then we can draw it at the end. Let's see if it works. It works perfectly. All right, nice. So it has kind of pixelated look a bit, and I do actually really like it, how it looks. But if you don't like it, you can actually just change our texture to have linear filtering instead of nearest, and then if you want to improve it further, you can probably paste this as some kind of parameter, right? But I do like this pixelated look of explosions, so I'm just going to leave it. So just that you know, you can change it here. All right, and then finally we need our bullets. So let's do just that. New bullet. So for our bullet is going to be relatively simple class as well. So we're going to need some speed, which is going to be on this way. Fine. So we're going to need draw rect, type rectangle, source rect, probably texture, but that can be private as well as this. This can probably be read-only. So what was I saying? Texture. Then we're going to need public active, which is by default set true, and finally our collider. And our constructor sprite is, I used laser blue, and then we just need to assign these values. So the usual, right? You know, laser blue is somewhere from our sprite sheet. You're probably going to find it somewhere here, and it's going to use, I think, this texture or this one of these. I'm not sure which one, but you already know this part if you followed along. So we're going to have our public spawn method, and we're going to paste player because we need the player here. We're going to say this active, and then our player draw rect is not public, so we're just going to make it public. So we just want to position bullet correctly, right? If you do the math, if you take a look at the player here, the whole point of this code is just to position it correctly so that it spawns somewhere over here, right? We don't want to spawn in this corner, which is by default of our rectangle, right? This is the position of a player. So we just do some math to offset it to this position. And same is for height as well. Then we're going to have update. We update our collider. So our bullet is going up. And then we can also deactivate it. If this is direct Y, I'm actually going to do it like this because I just find it easier to read it like that. So if our bullet leaves on screen, because by default our bullets are going up, we can just check if bullet is somewhere over here and then deactivate it. And then we're also going to have public draw. And this one is really simple. Nothing much to it. So we just need to draw our bullet. And finally, we're probably going to need the bullet manager. So let's do that. For our bullet manager. Oh, come on. Okay, this is going to be quite simple class as well. We're going to have some constant spawn time so that we know when we need to create one. and then private pool bullets, time to spawn. So we're just going to paste the player in, and then we're going to have public create. So let's find one that's inactive, right? You already know the pattern. If not active, we create a new one, and then we can just say, because our bullet has spawn method, we can just say bullet spawn, and our imports as well. Then we're going to have okay, update. Actually, we're going to have public intersects enemy. So we're going to pass our enemy. So for each bullet in this pool, if bullet is active and if it intersects enemy, we know that we're colliding, but we're also just going to set bullet active false. And then we're going to have update. So update is really simple. So we increase the time to spawn. If it's greater than spawn time, we reset it, and then we create a bullet. And this is already familiar. If it's active, we update it. And then we're going to have draw. And exactly. So if it's active, we draw. And that's it for our bullet manager. We're almost done here. So we just need to create it now. We can probably create it here. We need to update it, of course, and then we finally need to draw bullets. Since our bullets are sharing texture with enemy and player, it's probably more optimized if you draw them like this in a batch so that we avoid texture changes, you know. And then we have our bullets, and then we just need to collide them with our enemies. So we can do this. So we have explosion manager here, we can paste bullet manager. So we go to our enemy manager, and we're going to have private read only. And then here we're going to remove this, and we're going to say exactly. And almost the same. And then it's broken because I haven't saved everything. And now it's working, and our bullets are actually colliding with the asteroids. So that's it for this video. In next video, well, we're going to do fonts and font rendering because I want to have scores, and it's also kind of important, right, for a game to have font rendering. So that's it for this time. If you like this video, please like, subscribe. You can also join the Discord channel as well, and until next time.